The Mongol invasion had many consequences affecting Russia's political, social, and religious landscapes. If we closely examine the history, it looks like Russians have thoroughly adopted the Mongolian culture. The effects of the Mongol invasion can still be seen in the language and the structure of the administration. Let's dig through the pages of history to see the real and lasting impact of the Mongol Empire that is eminent even today. It would be wrong to say that the Russians invited Mongols to invade. Russia was at its pinnacle under the reigns of Saint Vladimir and Yaroslav the Wise, and had achieved relative stability compared to previous years. However, when their imperial kings died, a power struggle began, and wars erupted again. Before he died in 1054, Yaroslav the Wise handed princedoms to his sons, determining the fate of Russia for the following 2 centuries. Civil conflicts between the many sons destroyed much of the Russian Confederation due to this choice, depleting the key resources it would later require. As the princes continued to fight each other, the Kievan state, a confederation of towns, eventually deteriorated, making it easy for powerful invaders from faraway areas to seize control. The Russian princes had an opportunity to modify their fate. In a drive against the Palavsty tribe, the Mongols initially visited the lands surrounding Russia in 1219. Palavsty requested the help of the Russian princes, and a council of princes was formed to evaluate the request. The Mongols dispatched envoys to Russia, declaring that they had neither assaulted Russian cities or people, nor had they attacked their territory. The Mongol envoys appealed to the Russian princes for peace. The princes didn't trust the Mongols and believed they would march into Russia too. The Mongol ambassadors were assassinated, and the only possibility of peace was shattered at the hands of these weakened Russian princes. Batu Khan marched over Russia with an army of 200,000 soldiers. Ryazan, Moscow, Vladimir, Suzdal, Rostov were among the Russian kingdoms that fell to Batu and his forces one by one. Cities were robbed and burnt, people were slain, and many were taken as prisoners and slaves by the troops. Kiev, the symbolic center of Kievan Russia, was finally seized, looted, and destroyed by the Mongols. Only the distant northwest principalities of Novgorod, Pskov, and Smolensk escaped the invasion, but later these towns willingly became allies of the Golden Horde. The Russian prince's decision to make peace with the Mongols could have prevented this. Due to their errors, Russians' religion, art, language, governance, and political geography externally transformed. While some of these impacts, like the expansion of the Orthodox Church, were positive, the loss of the Veche system and the consolidation of authority helped limit the expansion of conventional democracy in Russia. If Russia had the opportunity to experience the Renaissance like other European countries, its political, theological, and social ideas would be very different from what it is today. Expansion of the Orthodox Church. During the Mongol conquest, the Orthodox Church emerged as a great beacon. The Russian people gradually turned inside, seeking guidance and support from the Orthodox Church. The shock of being subjugated by these steppe people would sow the roots of Russian monasticism, which would later play a key part in the conversion of Finno-Ugrian tribes and Zyrianians to Christianity, as well as the colonization of Russia's northern areas. The political power of princes and the assemblies were humiliated, and the political power was shattered. As a result of the loss of political unity, the church rose to become an embodiment of both religious and national identity, filling the void. The Orthodox Church was granted more influence by the Mongols. For the first time in Russian history, the church would rely less on the rulers. The Orthodox Church was able to purchase and consolidate property rapidly, putting it in a dominant position in the centuries after the Mongol occupation. Both Mongol and Russian tax agents were prohibited from taking church properties or demanding services from the Orthodox Church under the Charter of Immunity. The sole penalty for disobedience was death. The churches began propagating Christianity throughout the countryside and converting individuals still practicing paganism. Church authorities traveled widely throughout the nation to alleviate administrative problems and monitor the activities of bishops and priests. The main reason was to develop a strong internal structure. Peasants were also drawn to hermitages because of the economic, military, and spiritual security they provided. The relocation of the Orthodox Church's headquarters was one of the dramatic changes that happened during the Mongol rule. Kiev was the religious hub before the Mongols conquered Russian territories. Following the devastation of Kiev, it was relocated to Vladimir in 1299 and then to Moscow in 1322, greatly enhancing the importance of Moscow's status in the Russian administration. Removal of democratic Veke systems. When one first thinks of Russia, images of authoritarianism come to mind, as it has remained such from the time of Imperial Russia to the time of Vladimir Putin's presidency. But there was a sort of democracy in Kievan Russia. The Veke was a town assembly comprised of all free male inhabitants who convened to debate issues like war and peace, legislation, and even invitation or expulsion of princes. It was mainly a discussion and problem-solving platform for civic issues. Under the Mongols, however, this democratic institution was severely hampered. After the Mongol invasion, Vekes vanished in all towns except Novgorod, Pskov, and others in the northern areas. Vekes in these towns functioned and developed until the 15th century, but were later dysfunctional after Moscow conquered them. Recently, the Veke as a public forum has been revitalized in several Russian cities, including Novgorod. Implementation of census. The first Mongol census was held in 1257, only 17 years after the Mongol invasion of Russian territories. Conscription and taxes were both based on the results of the census. The population was split into tens, a system previously used by the Chinese and subsequently adopted by the Mongols across the empire. After the horde's legitimacy was lost in 1480, Moscow continued this practice. At least in this area, the Mongol Empire had a profound and successful impact, assisting Russia in establishing a strong central administration. Destruction of old architecture and revival of artistic. The monastic restoration and the focus of attention shifted toward the Orthodox Church, led to a creative resurgence in Russia, which began with mass deportations of its artists. The Russians were characterized by their Christianity and capacity to communicate their religious views at this important time when they were without a state. Great artists like Theophanes the Greek and Rublev appeared during this period of turmoil. Russian iconography and fresco painting began to thrive again in the mid-14th century during the second part of the Mongol reign. In the late 1300s, Theophanes the Greek came and decorated all the churches by traveling across the country. He worked on the iconostasis of the Church of the Annunciation and painted the iconostasis for the Church of the Archangel Michael in Moscow. Rublev became recognized a few decades later and was one of Theophanes' most ambitious students. Iconography was brought to Russia from Byzantium in the 11th century, but the Mongol invasion in the 13th century cut Russia off from Byzantium, which was resurrected under Mongol rule. Import of new words to the Russian language. The linguistic ramifications may appear insignificant at first, but these influences on a country's language help us measure how much the Mongol Empire impacted the Russians. Mongolians provided a completely new terminology which was evident in every aspect of government, military, and trade. there were significant linguistic and even sociolinguistic impacts. The Russians adopted thousands of words, phrases, and other linguistic elements from Mongol languages. You can find names of many cities and places like Penza, Alatyr, and Kazan with words of Mongolian origin. The Russians became a more Asiatic nation in terms of government and economics under the control of the Mongols. In contrast, their deep Christian roots established and helped them maintain a link with Europe. No other historical event in the history of Russia influenced the formation of Russian culture, political geography, and national identity than the Mongol invasion. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked the video, check out other historical videos on our channel. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you don't miss out on such interesting topics.